Canada didn't raise its voice. It didn't wave a flag or launch a threat. It passed 7 laws, quietly, strategically, and walked away. Now, 6 American states are bleeding jobs, losing exports, and bracing for collapse. This isn't some cable news drama or political spin. It's an economic shift, one that's hitting hard and fast. If you live in Florida, Michigan, Texas, or even a quieter state like Minnesota, the fallout might already be on your doorstep. Over $12 billion have vanished in just 6 months. Truck routes are down 37%. Canadian tourism to U.S. cities has cratered. And meat, oil, tech, and even power are getting cut off in ways the public never saw coming. So what exactly did Canada do? Why are these specific states at the epicenter of the fallout? That's what this video is going to unpack. One law at a time, one collapsing state at a time. If you're in one of these states, this isn't just a story, it's a warning. So hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, and drop a comment if the signs are already showing where you live. Let's get into it. In just 6 weeks, Canada quietly passed 7 powerful laws, none of them headline grabbers, but each one a strategic blow to the American economy. These weren't vague statements or diplomatic warnings. These were enforceable policies designed to protect Canadian interests while exposing American vulnerabilities. And now, we're seeing the results. Let's break it down. There's a new digital platform tax that directly targets U.S. tech giants like Google and Meta. A Travel Safety Act advising Canadians to avoid certain U.S. states, with a major hit to tourism. An import sanitation ban rejecting U.S. meat and produce over updated Canadian standards. And perhaps most disruptive, an Energy Export Licensing Act restricting electricity exports to American states. That's not all. Canada also implemented a tourism and media shield that cuts all federally funded promotion of U.S. destinations, a border rights protection law that limits ICE cooperation, and a game-changing automatic tariff trigger. Any U.S. tariff action now gets a Canadian counterpunch within 72 hours. Individually, these may sound like niche policies, but together, they've formed a legal firewall. And American states that relied on cross-border trade, energy, agriculture, or tourism, they're the ones feeling the pain first. Let's start the countdown. Number 6, Minnesota. A state that shares more than just a border with Canada. It shares a deep economic lifeline. And now, that lifeline is unraveling. First, energy. Minnesota imports large amounts of hydroelectric power from Manitoba. But with Canada's new Energy Export Licensing Act, that flow is no longer guaranteed. New licenses are now required, and they favor countries with stable, cooperative trade ties. The U.S. isn't on that list. The result? Northern Minnesota faces a projected spike in electricity prices, 15 to 20%, threatening households and small manufacturers already stretched thin. Then there's tourism. The Boundary Waters and the North Shore used to draw tens of thousands of Canadian visitors every summer. But under the Travel Safety Designation Act, parts of Minnesota are now flagged. Canadian bookings have plunged by 31%. Campgrounds, lodges, and outdoor retailers are reporting the worst summer in a decade. The digital economy is under pressure too. Minneapolis-based tech and ad agencies are losing Canadian clients due to new taxes and data regulations. And Minnesota's export of iron ore and machinery, once seamless across the border, now faces longer inspections and rejections under the import sanitation ban. This isn't just tension, it's a disruption. Quiet, legal, and punishing. And for Minnesota, it's only the beginning. Number 5, New York. A state known for its global influence, financial muscle, and cultural gravity. But even empires can feel tremors. And Canada just triggered a quiet quake. Start with tourism. Before the fallout, more than 3.5 million Canadians visited New York each year. They filled hotels in Manhattan, restaurants in Buffalo, and shopping centers in Niagara Falls. But under Canada's Travel Safety Designation Act, that traffic is vanishing. Cautionary advisories now label parts of New York as politically unstable. The result? A 28% drop in Canadian reservations in less than a year. Then there's promotion. Under the Tourism and Media Shield Act, Canada has pulled all federal funding for marketing U.S. destinations, including New York. That means no more subsidized travel packages, no more tour groups, and no more Canadian exposure on the world stage. The financial sector isn't safe either. The digital platform tax is pushing Canadian regulators to pull back from U.S.-based data platforms. Wall Street firms are already seeing Canadian contracts shrink, especially in digital advertising, fintech services, and data infrastructure. And trade? New York exports over $17 billion to Canada annually, from electronics to processed foods. But now, many of those shipments are facing delays, inspections, or outright rejection under Canada's import sanitation ban. For decades, New York has thrived on international ties. But with Canada building legal walls instead of bridges, those ties are starting to fray, and the cracks are showing. Number 4, Iowa. Quiet, agricultural, and often overlooked. But in Canada's new economic playbook, Iowa is ground zero for trade fallout. For years, Iowa has been one of the nation's top exporters of pork, corn, and soybeans, and Canada was one of its most dependable buyers. But not anymore. Under Canada's import sanitation ban, shipments of pork are being turned away over feed additives and hormone treatments that no longer meet Canadian standards. Entire truckloads are getting stalled or rejected at the border. Farmers are watching thousands of pounds of products spoil in storage or sell at a loss on secondary markets. The impact doesn't stop with meat. Corn and soybean exports are now under intense scrutiny. Pesticide rules have changed, and the crops Iowa relies on are no longer compliant. Grain elevators across rural counties are filling up, and there's nowhere to send the harvest. There's more. Fertilizer prices are spiking due to licensing restrictions in the new Energy Export Licensing Act. Canadian suppliers are pulling out of co-op deals, and ethanol plants are quietly slashing output or shutting down entirely. The fallout is cascading through rural communities. Packaging plants are downsizing, seasonal jobs are disappearing. Even local school districts are reporting revenue shortfalls due to the collapse in farm income. Iowa's economy was never flashy, but it was steady. Now, the very foundation it was built is crumbling. And federal support? Nowhere in sight. Number 3, Texas. Known for oil, exports, and unshakable pride. But even the Lone Star State is being pulled into Canada's quiet economic war, and the damage is already mounting. Start with energy. Texas exports massive amounts of refined petroleum and liquefied natural gas, and Canada was a key customer. But under the Energy Export Licensing Act, Canadian firms now need new, politically influenced approvals to import U.S. energy. And those approvals? They're slow, selective, and increasingly elusive. Several Texas refineries have already lost contracts worth tens of millions. The energy sector, once a juggernaut, is now facing unexpected resistance. Then there's agriculture. Texas beef, citrus, and cotton are staples in export markets. But Canada's import sanitation ban is rejecting shipments left and right, especially those tied to hormone usage and chemical traces. Canadian retailers are backing off, citing liability and safety concerns. Shelves that once held Texas oranges are now being stocked with imports from other countries. Tourism is unraveling too. Cities like Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio have long marketed to Canadian snowbirds and retirees. But the Travel Safety Designation Act now warns Canadians against visiting certain southern states, including Texas. Canadian visitor numbers are down over 35%, with rental bookings and hotel stays collapsing across major metro areas. Add to that Canada's automatic tariff trigger, which discourages long-term contracts with Texas exporters. What was once a confident trade relationship has become a legal minefield, and Texas is losing ground fast. Number 2, Michigan. The industrial heartbeat of America and the unofficial bridge between the two nations. For decades, Michigan and Ontario moved in near-perfect sync in trade, tourism, and culture. But now, that connection is breaking. The biggest blow? Auto manufacturing, Michigan's lifeblood. Canada's automatic tariff trigger is a direct strike at the heart of Detroit. Every time the U.S. raises tariffs, especially under the new trade policies of 2025, Canada retaliates within 72 hours. Auto parts, aluminum, and machinery are the first to get hit. Contracts are being canceled. Costs are rising. And Canadian buyers are turning to Europe and Asia for alternatives. Tourism is another quiet casualty. Canadian travelers used to flood into Traverse City, Detroit, and the Great Lakes. But the Travel Safety Designation Act now discourages visits to parts of Michigan, citing political instability and safety concerns. Border crossings from Ontario are down by over 40%. Lakefront resorts and shopping centers are suffering. Even agriculture is bleeding. Michigan's apples, dairy, and packaged goods are being held up or rejected under the import sanitation ban. Pesticide regulations, labeling issues, and packaging standards are being used to block products, legally but ruthlessly. And the tech sector? Firms in Ann Arbor are losing contracts with Canadian universities and businesses, as data laws and platform taxes make U.S. partnerships harder to justify. Michigan isn't just feeling economic pressure, it's a feeling of betrayal. What was once a seamless partnership is now riddled with barriers, and the identity of America's gateway to Canada is slipping away. Number 1. Florida. Once Canada's winter playground. Now, it's becoming the boycott's biggest casualty. For decades, Canadian snowbirds poured into Florida's beaches, resorts, golf courses, and condos. They brought over $6 billion annually, supporting tens of thousands of seasonal jobs. But that flow is evaporating fast. Under Canada's Travel Safety Designation Act, Florida has been labeled a Tier 2 caution zone, flagged for political tension, healthcare risks, and rising gun violence. As a result, Canadian insurance providers are quietly pulling coverage for extended stays in the state. The impact? A staggering 42% drop in long-term Canadian visitors. Entire rental communities in Naples, Sarasota, and Fort Lauderdale now sit half-empty. Snowbird hotspots are turning into ghost towns. Tourism promotion is gone too. The Tourism and Media Shield Act bans Canadian government-funded advertising for U.S. destinations, including Disney World, Miami, and the Keys. Travel agencies can't package Florida trips with subsidies or incentives, slashing demand even further. Meanwhile, the citrus industry is being hammered. Canada just rejected major shipments over pesticide violations. Florida's $9 billion orange economy is now facing warehouse backlogs, falling prices, and declining demand. Even the cruise industry isn't spared. With higher costs from Canada's digital tax and travel warnings in place, Canadian bookings from Florida ports have plummeted. Florida isn't just losing tourists, it's losing trust. And in 2025, that may be the one thing it can't afford to lose. Canada's new laws aren't temporary. They're structural. And for these 6 states, the fallout is only beginning. If you're already seeing the signs, speak up. Drop a comment, share this with